Convene the meeting, so I will be calling the meeting to order. And with that, Alderman Johnson, can you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, Stacia, please.
Steve Jarvis.
Here.
Bill Miner. Bill Miner.
Bill, are you still on the phone? Alderman Miner, are you still on the phone? He's unmuted.
Yeah,
Is it muted,
it just went dead.
Who's that talking?
I wonder if you, Bill, maybe muted the
It's
wrong
supposed to
person.
be Bill. Hold on a second.
Unmuted.
Hello?
Alderman Miner?
Hello? 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 Hello?
Okay, you're all unmuted.
I think that you muted, I think Mayor,
Yes.
Kathy, I think you muted yourself because the lines went dead.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you all to be as quiet as possible then. And instead of doing that, we're just going to not mute anybody, but Alderman Miner, roll call.
Bill Miner.
Here.
Okay.
John Johnson.
Here.
Jim Peterson.
Here.
This is our first time doing it with this many callers on, so we've got many, many more than we've ever had before. So, okay. Folks, if you have mute capability on your side, if you could mute your phones on your side, that would be of a great help to us. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of an overview of how we're going to handle this tonight. Now, the public comment that we're going to ask for right now is for anything that's not on the agenda. The conversation relative to the coronavirus is an agendized item, so this would be for anything other than that. So do we have any comment that anybody wants to make for anything other than the virus? I'm looking around the room. I'm not seeing anything, so I'll close that portion of it. Now we're going to go ahead and move into the agenda items. We have two on the agenda. The first one is the proposed resolution 2026-06, Public Health Emergency COVID-19, adopting certain measure to slow the community spread of COVID-19. I'd like to address any public comment first. I'd like to do this in the most expedient and best use of our time that we have. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes, and we will be timing that comment. We have public comment that we're going to take in 3 ways. We have audience participants who have signed up in a fashion that they can have their time for public comment. We also have a couple folks on the phone that we will take in order, and after that we've got a few email messages that Brett will read. So that's how we're going to handle this and move through it in that fashion. After public comment, we will close it, and then I will open it up to the aldermen to have their conversation after that. So let's go ahead and move into public comment. Stacia, please walk us through the list of public comment.
Our first one will be Ron Rosknecht.
Mr. Rosknecht, please come to the front.
Well, I'm here on behalf of Dale Householder that asked me to attend because he had some concerns, and then I'm also here as the county commissioner that I might be able to answer some questions relative to what we plan on doing in the near future. So the county administration building will probably be closed to personal access beginning Friday at 5 o'clock. We'll lock it up. If people need to get in there on a personal level, you'll be able to do that by appointment. And each one of our offices, we verified with all the department heads that you should be able to conduct all your business with the treasurer's office, auditors, planning and zoning via email. But if there's a circumstance that you can't do that, then we will, by appointment, we'll let people in the door. And I'll know more on Friday morning. We're going to meet at 9 o'clock, and then we're going to do the same thing that you're doing here. We'll sign something that'll be binding But right now, one of the reasons I'm here, because I want to see what's going on here so that I can report that to our commission, because that might give us some guidance on the direction that we're going to go.
Okay.
The current number for my emergency management team as of yesterday was 41. That might have slipped up today. I was recently told that Monument Health, the person that was infected, she was in the cancer ward, and this is worst case scenario, but it could be 100 people infected, but they're all contained. So I thought I'd share that because it's not what we want to hear, but it's reality. Then another part of our resolution on Friday, we'll be talking what the county considers essential and non-essential. And that's one of the reasons Dale asked me to be here tonight, because we got an economic meltdown and we got health concerns that we have to address. And as a commission, we're walking a fine line, trying to make right decisions and foremost protect people's health. So if I can answer any questions relative to what the county plans on doing, I'll be more than happy to at this time. Other than that, that's all I really got.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker in the room,
Question time's all over with?
council, if you have a question for him, that's fine.
Do you guys have anything more stricter in the resolution?
We're not doing anything more restricted than a resolution at this
So
time.
nothing really enforceable?
What's that?
Nothing really enforceable?
No. Not this time. I think the idea is not to put people in shock, use best business practices and stuff things out. I did see our county enforcement officer today at Three Forks. Asked him what he was doing, and he told me he was driving around 485 to see what's open, what's not, because he'll probably make a recommendation, essential or non-essential. So I'll keep everybody posted.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay.
Victor is our next speaker.
I see in the way that it's presented here in this type of a whereas resolution format, I don't really have anything to speak about necessarily till I hear more from other people. Is that plausible? I put myself down for the 35th person because I couldn't go any higher than that. But
So
I'm good.
at this point, you're good, okay. That's fine. We'll see how it goes from there. Okay, anyone else in the room? Okay, no one else in the room. I did mute a couple phones, so let me go back to... Okay, so Robin Pladsen on the phone, is there anything that you'd like to say? Robin?
Yes, I'm here. I had to unmute me.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anything that you'd like to add for comment?
Yes, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that the 211 program through United Way is in use, and there's a lot of different avenues and stuff that we discussed today for the northern and the southern hills, and they're pretty much the same. We're going to get together again next week on the Zoom webinar area, how they do it with Zoom, and we'll be able to, should have something that has some information that the 211 has out. They just sent a bunch of stuff out today, especially for the people in concerning with transportation, food. If you are up to doing foreclosures, you know, you should be able to contact your own loan companies. There's a big spam out there right now where people are contacting people about foreclosures on their houses, but there's a program you can go through your own loan company and to use that. So I'll have more of that for next week, but I just wanted to make sure that it got out there that for everybody to use that 211
Okay.
through United Way.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the other person that I had was Danny. Danny, is there a comment that you want to make?
I pretty much heard most of everything. I just want to say that we're not within the city of Hill City or Keystone, and Holy Smoke Resort doesn't generally open until the end of April anyway. But I hope everybody can get together and shut this thing down. But take the pill now instead of having to deal with a big mess later on, because most of our population there in Keystone is of the age in the age bracket, are year-round residents that's at risk. And I just wanted to say to everybody that if there's anything that I can do, I'm there.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now I'm going to again remind people, if you have mutes on your own phones, please use that option. I'm going to ask Brett to read what we've received over the email.
First email is from Mark and Connie Ostern. They're from the Beef Jerky Outlet. Continue business as usual. Certainly prudent to be concerned and use appropriate precautionary measures. Business is traditionally slow this time of year. We are already practicing social distancing. Media hype has caused undue hysteria worldwide. The Wuhan virus has an incredible survival rate that is rarely discussed. Rather, focus has been on the less than 1% mortality rate. This rate will continue to fall as more testing is done. It is important that we keep this in perspective. We have much worse pandemics roll through with little or no concern. We readily accept that tens of thousands of people die each year due to the flu. No panic, no economic shutdown, and no quarantine. Use common sense. If you're in a high-risk group, alter your lifestyle just as you would while you do any other illness you might need to avoid. Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
So that's one. And this one is from Chris Van Ness. Dear Mayor and City Council, I support and appreciate your proclamation. Everyone needs to take this seriously and treat it aggressively to minimize the spread of the virus. Some personal sacrifices now may prevent major ones in the future, including possible loss of at-risk loved ones. Our peak will hit later than the rest of the country, and we will need to be prepared and remain vigilant for as long as it takes. The film festival and the EDC offices are closed, but we will be conducting meetings via Zoom to protect our members. Phones and email are still up and running, and we will continue to conduct our daily business. Stay safe. Sincerely, Chris.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
That's what we have. Okay, before I open it up to council for discussion, I wanted to make everyone aware of a couple of things. So the first thing is the library has made the decision that they will be closing on Monday, March 30th, as far as walk-in traffic. They still will be offering curbside pickup for library materials. They do have information relative to how that can be obtained, and the information is available under the www.hillcitysouthDakota.com/city government. So we will make sure that this information gets pushed out, and that is a wise decision that they've made. I appreciate the steps that the library has made in order to keep open while we go through this time, and now they are making the decision to tighten up their practices a little bit more. I just received information this afternoon that Sculpture in the Hills is being canceled as well. And as everybody may have also heard, Crazy Horse Memorial is also closing at this point. For what time frame, we do not know. We had planned a ribbon cutting for May 1st for the sidewalks, and we will be postponing that to later as well. As a recommendation from the city, I would like to recommend that any activities that have been planned for the month of April, which would involve large crowds of 10 or more, be considered to be either postponed or canceled in light of things that are occurring with regard to the virus. We have made steps at City Hall, and we've made them known as far as what we're doing, limitations, and ways that we're looking at things. We are still doing business as usual. So this is a time where it's especially important to remember that we need to be supportive of each other as a community. We need to be aware that we have a large population of people here that are in a high-risk category. And while we don't really intend for life to stop as a whole for everyone, we need to be cognizant and aware of that. We need to look at what we do and perhaps modify the way we are doing some things. Today I went out and yesterday visited a lot of our businesses that still display open signs. The sentiment across the board with those that I were able to speak with is that if we work together as a community, we need to do it together. If we do that, while we may be having difficulty in the spring, we may actually be able to have a successful summer through this. We need to attack it together. Our restaurants are all together looking at going to that curbside service, a delivery service, or some type of takeout service. Our coffee shops are planning on doing the same thing. I was not able to reach out to Linksden, but I did have a conversation with Victor, and I don't know if he's been able to reach out to her as well. I know that a lot of them have already gone to that service as well, and some are just waiting on targets and just implementing what they need to do. As far as some of the other shops that are available in our area, we need to understand what business is done. I've talked to some of those essential services like our salon. While there are other things that are there like clothing, Angie's made the decision that that's not that important, but she is going to handle appointments. So walk-ins, not anymore, but appointments and strict understanding of who she's working with. Only local customers, those people that she's familiar with, not folks from out of state that she isn't. That out-of-state presence is what represents the risk to us now. And while I understand that that's really a lot of what drives our economy, that's how the spread is going to continue to happen. So that is what I wanted to make sure that I shared with the rest of council. I have gone out there, I have talked to some of the businesses. And right now, my overall concern is our citizens that we have here. I will be reaching out to our organizations that support those things, our senior center, Kroll's Market. I know that you guys have done a lot to set up delivery services, getting food out to people's cars, how we can continue to do that. I know the food bank is setting up specific things. And I know while they're not welcoming visitors into the senior center, they are available for phone calls. I know that Pastor Jeremy is available to do things. So I know that we're working together as a community, and that's how we're going to get through this. I'm looking to work with Mary to see if there's other things we can do. As people are in their homes a little bit more, they're going to need contact, they're going to need phone calls. So those are the things that I want to continue to work on as a community. So now I'd like to work with the council to see where they'd like to go from here. I did issue a proclamation yesterday, and that I felt was what I could do that was within my power, a place that we could start, and something that we discussed at the meeting on Monday. Brett's asking for the floor before we get any further.
So, thank you, Mayor. I just want to real briefly preface what this document is doing and how it's different from the proclamation.
Okay.
And then if I misspeak, we can have the city attorney, Wazorek, Mr. Wazorek, correct me. But first of all, I want everybody to know here in the audience and at home, if you want to read the ordinance, or the proposed resolution, it's on our website at hillcitysd.com underneath the government tab for coronavirus update. Again, it's just a proposed resolution that we're discussing tonight. It may not be the final document that's approved, but we have to have a starting point, okay? And so this is what's before the council this evening. So Mayor Cathy put out a proclamation yesterday that described a lot of the best practices that were put out by the CDC and the state and other government entities about social distancing, hand washing, those kinds of things. What we did was we used that as the core of this document and put that in there. So that element is in this document. On the first sheet of paper of the resolution, it will recognize the whereases. Whereas this is a pandemic and the CDC has declared it so, and that we're dealing with it as a community. There's a couple other lines that we put in there, and those are the lines that give a municipality the authority to do certain things within the promotion of the public health and our ability to enforce those things through South Dakota codified law. So those, I won't read those, but those are in there. in the document itself, it very much reflects what the proclamation was yesterday that was released. The only difference really is that we, in this resolution, we are asking that the community do what they seem to be doing already, is following those best practices. The only difference is that it would allow us as a community, and this is a bit different, I think, from most other municipalities of the way that they're approaching it, is if there is a business or a service or whatnot in town that is not following best practices, is kind of creating a public health hazard, the council has the ability to determine that location as a nuisance and then take specific action to work with that business owner or property owner to remedy it. Okay, so this isn't written to put a blanket, this is a critical asset, this isn't critical or essential. It's not putting labels on anybody. It's essentially saying, look, as a community, we're finding that most people, most entities, businesses, property owners are doing these best practices. It's really targeted to address those individual cases where there's a question and our ability to, as a city, to address it for the public health and safety. So that's the gist of it. And it's like I said, it's a little bit different from what other cities are looking at. But for me, it's more targeted and it's more fitting of Hill City because I think most people are already in compliance with best practices.
So thank you, Brett.
I think for the benefit of the people, we
Yes.
should read these.
Sure,
You want to read those?
sure, absolutely.
We don't need to whereas that probably.
Okay, so what I will do is, for the benefit of those that are on the phone and have not had an opportunity to see what this is, I will go ahead and read the resolution. I'm not going to go ahead and read the whereases. Those are the clauses that include the legal references that we go to. I will start with the second page, page 2 of 3, and read the real meat of it, which refers to what we're dealing with here. So, starting with page 2 of 3, every Hill City community member should, and let me start because I know that we do have a lot of folks on the phone that are not within the Hill City community. I know we have Keystone, I know we have county members. So again, this is specific to those that lie within the borders of Hill City. Having you folks on the phone is beneficial. This is an opportunity for you to understand what we're doing here in Hill City and allow you to take this information back to those that represent your individual areas. Ron, we have you here from the county, so we'd ask that take this back to the county commissioners. See if this is something that would apply, and if it is, feel free to use it. This is just a version that we thought would be more acceptable to Hill City because we are unique and this is what fits our area, or we are going to propose to council that fits our area for our unique needs. Again, not everyone is the same size, but this might be a little bit more palatable to some of our smaller communities. So in going into the document, every Hill City community member should, number 1, review and practice the recommended CDC and South Dakota Department of Health hygiene practices designed to stop the spread of the disease, COVID-19, and encourage others to do so as well. 2, know the signs and symptoms of COVID-19. Call a healthcare provider if suffering symptoms in advance of a visit to a provider, and stay at home if sick. 3, understand that those who are particularly vulnerable to COVID-19, including those over age 60 and those suffering from respiratory or cardiac conditions, should take extra precautions and remain home if possible. 4, implement social distancing measures and support businesses who are adjusting their business model to reduce the spread of COVID-19. 5, assist those who work in essential jobs such as emergency personnel, medical professionals, and law enforcement. All employees, both for profit and not for profit, within the city of Hill City should. 6, implement the recommended CDC and South Dakota Department of Hygiene practices and other business strategies designed to reduce the likelihood of spreading the disease. 7, understand that the COVID-19 is not a short-term challenge and operations will need to endure a difficult and limited social environment for potentially 8 weeks or more. 8, innovate and continue to demonstrate entrepreneurial excellence in their operations during this difficult and uncertain environment. 9, encourage staff to telework if possible, implement social distancing measures, limit unnecessary work gatherings, limit non-essential travel, and consider regular health checks, including CDC and SDDOH guidance for COVID-19 screening if possible. 10, offer to the extent possible special shopping times or access periods for populations particularly vulnerable to COVID-19. Any enclosed retail business that promotes public gatherings within the state of South Dakota should suspend or modify business practices as recommended by the CDC and SDDOH guidance that involve 10 or more people to be an enclosed space where physical separation of at least 6 feet is not possible. 12, continue offering or consider offering business models that do not involve public gatherings, including takeout, delivery, drive-through, curbside service, off-site services, social distancing models, or other innovative business practices that do not involve public gatherings in an enclosed space. 13, consider business arrangements and innovative ideas intended to support the critical infrastructure sectors as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. The mayor and common council and staff of the city of Hill City will 14, protect the infrastructure of the city and maintain water services, sewer services, street services, and other critical functions of municipal government. 15, provide ongoing information to Hill City citizens of the local impact of COVID-19. 16, practice heightened awareness of municipal expenditures to ensure fiscal responsibility. 17, enforce its police powers to abate nuisances as permitted under South Dakota Codified Law, Chapter 9-29, and South Dakota Codified Law, Chapter 21-10. Be it further ordained that pursuant to this law, this resolution is necessary for the immediate preservation of public peace, health, safety, and welfare of the city, and shall become effective immediately upon passage. In testimony whereof I have unto set my hand, and it's the rest of the legal part of this, and then it would be signed by myself, countersigned by our interim finance officer, and the date so associated. So this again is just a draft of the proposal. This is intended really to allow the flexibility of us to continue to function as an individual entity within the needs that we have as a community, but also in the event that we as a community understand that there is a specific health risk associated with any of those activities, we as a council and community can exercise the right that's been given to us by the state of South Dakota to address those issues as necessary. Council, any thoughts?
So Brett, the meat of it in 17 is the enforcement thing. If we find a bad actor to try to bring him into the fold, if you will, and then ultimately that can be ratcheted up and we actually have some teeth that we can sink into it.
Correct. So let me give you a very generic example that there's a concern of staff or a member of the public of activities going on. We can do outreach to that person, that entity, to say, hey, what are your plans for addressing the COVID-19 situation? Walk through that, work with them. Really, again, with any code we have, it's code compliance essentially. If there's a way to work that out, that would be the ultimate of saying, hey, we've got a game plan going forward. This is what they're going to do. End of story. If we have to take it further, we have the ability to bring that situation back to you as a council to tell you what's going on, that we've exhausted our ability to remedy this person to person and bring it before you to discuss what we want to do with it, if any, and we have the enforceability to do it through our state law. Now, I don't have it in front of me, it's on my desk, but on the front page there, I think it's about 2/3 of the way down on the front page. It's that South Dakota 9-32-1 and South Dakota Codified Law 9-29-1. Those two sections give municipalities the authority to take emergency action for the health and well-being of the community. And there is also specific language that talks about, and this was a comment that was at our last meeting, the enforceability of ordinances and resolutions. Specifically in codified law, there is the ability to enforce resolutions and ordinances. So I want to make that clear. Proclamations are just that. The mayor is proclaiming that she agrees with whatever's out there, but there is no enforceability of proclamations. With resolutions, there is. If there weren't, we wouldn't really be using them at all. So I just want to make that clear. A resolution can be enforced. We need to be careful about good, solid information when we have meetings and talk about it. And that was one erroneous comment that was made at our last meeting. So this is enforceable. In that number 17, you will see that we would enforce it as a nuisance of saying, hey, this, whatever's going on, is putting the public health at risk, and we have the authority to address it. And if you decide not to address it, then you've technically kind of addressed it, because you've talked about it. Now, going beyond that, you could take further action, and we'd have to consult the city attorney of whatever was appropriate for that situation. So I think it's very targeted, and it doesn't really punish anybody or preclude them from doing business as long as they are trying their best to comply with the CDC and Department of Health recommendations from the state of South Dakota. So,
If somebody doesn't comply, how long does it take to do this process?
so it's a cumbersome process. We're going to have to bring it back to you as a council to determine if it is or isn't a nuisance. So we're going to have to adjourn our meeting and get your comments and convey the information to you and get a designation, a vote from you that designated that it is a nuisance that needs to be addressed.
So we're looking at 2 days,
It
3
could-
Well,
days?
because of
It
the
could be
severity,
cumbersome.
we could convene as soon as possible. So,
Right.
we understand that because it's the COVID virus, we'd want to address it that way. So we would immediately engage with each of you to see when it would be absolutely possible for all of us to get together, so.
And keep in mind, it wouldn't have to be a 5:30 meeting, it could be a
It could be
9:30,
whenever,
whatever.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah, it could be 10
absolutely.
o'clock in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there is a heightened awareness to this. There is also a heightened awareness to other code enforcement because of the time we're at, so we're being very sensitive to that as well,
Okay.
from a process perspective.
Would it be quicker with an ordinance? It's already black and white, they know what to do?
So if you put it into an ordinance, somebody still needs to make a determination whether or not a nuisance exists. And that's in our ordinance right now. We have a nuisance violation. But in that language, it says, it reflects the language that we have to bring it back to you to determine whether it is officially a nuisance if it's not specifically listed within the ordinance. And so trying to put language specifically in the ordinance that this bad actor, as Councilman Peterson said, is doing something that is specifically listed within the ordinance, that they're not following it, is going to be really hard to say they are exactly doing that. And so, again, I think 90% of everybody that I've seen and talked to are already doing this list.
Custer's gonna do an ordinance.
Yeah, and so
So it's
those
not
people
strange.
that aren't following this are gonna be few and far between. But if that happens, we've got a solution. The hardship on us, which isn't really a hardship, this is part of what we do on a regular basis, is get together, discuss things, and vote.
Which can be done as quickly as need be.
So this resolution just.
Mayor Skolnicki?
Yes, can Alderman Minor have the floor?
Could we hear from the city attorney as to this, what his recommendation is?
Absolutely. Attorney Wyzorek, would you care to comment, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So there's a couple of things going. First, I'm going to address the ordinance. As you probably been following, Rapid City is going an ordinance route. Deadwood today, is my understanding, did an ordinance and a resolution at the same time because of the delay in the ordinance coming into effect, because you have to do a first and second reading. in talking to the mayor, frankly, you should be proud of the businesses in your city. They have, according to the mayor, basically complied. So in discussing the timing of doing these things, under the resolution is enforceable as a matter of law. And what you're basically doing is saying, look, we're adopting and saying businesses, you need to follow these health guidelines, and if not, we can target enforcement. Going to the councilman's comment as to timing of it, you certainly could put in the resolution authorizing either the mayor or employees of the city to immediately begin to enforce if they think there's an issue, and grant that authority where you wouldn't necessarily have to come back and hold a meeting. What I would envision, and I think Brett outlined a good procedure, that would be you have a bad actor, you start talking to them because perhaps the bad actor doesn't even realize that they are not in compliance with what the CDC is advising you must be doing, and give them a chance to remedy. And why even doing that, if there's a concern that maybe they won't remedy, you could even start setting up your meeting as a fallback, and if the bad actor agrees to comply, perhaps even eliminate the need for the meeting. As to the ordinance, you can certainly do an ordinance. The ordinance would have to be, it's broader, because if you do the ordinance, you have to set through the standards to which they're going to enforce, and it's blanket for the entire community. The benefit in a smaller community such as yours of doing the nuisance action is you have a bunch of standards out there, just like the health code would set up anyway, and you can go in and start targeting enforcement in a smaller community where you're getting, almost 100% compliance already. Does that answer the questions of the council?
Yes, it does.
Bill, I think, asked.
Bill, does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Alderman Peterson, you had a comment?
Yeah, well, so that, thank you for the enforcement part of that. Timing, how are we?
Time sensitivity?
Well, is this resolution, or is there a sunset clause on it, or is there a need for that? Is there, does this, we get to, do we keep, obviously this whole thing's a fluid item anyway, so we can't really guess when things are going to stop or start or whatever, but is there a timing issue with this in terms of the longevity and, does this go for 2 weeks? Does this go for 3 weeks? How are we at the end game of it, I guess?
So,
Mayor, I'm sorry, Mayor Talbot Wazorek, one of the things about that, Councilman, is by tying the reference to the South Dakota Department of Health and the CDC as being kind of the standard, as they either intensify or back off of what they think you should be doing, you're using that as your gauge. So it gives you some flexibility as to that, because the way the resolution's written right now, if you wouldn't necessarily declare that it's a nuisance under the law if they're not, based on the fact they're following the CDC. So if the department or the South Dakota Department of Health comes back and states, look, we're at a point now where there's a acceptable treatment regime that resolves this issue over a short stay, so you can start backing off. Given that that's your standard to establish a nuisance, the resolution naturally starts to back off with it.
Okay, thank you.
Can we, where we have this posted on the city website, can we put a link to the CDC and the South Dakota Department of Health?
Yep.
So the folks on the phone can hear that. So there was a councilman request. Councilman Jarvis had asked that we put a link to the CDC and the Department of Health. So that's available, and that will be done.
So really what we're doing here is just you know, we got a community that's probably
In compliance.
already there, and give us the ability to, the rare case of somebody's not doing that. And it's really a sort of a voluntary, the proclamation and the resolution are really just stressing to our community that we need to be aware and pay attention and get through this together.
And I think moreover, so we are unique as a community, but what it also does is it's a signal to our other community members. It's a signal to Keystone. It's a signal to the rest of the Black Hills that Hill City is serious, and we are being good neighbors with the rest of our surrounding communities. We are being good neighbors with Rapid City, and we are complying and all working together for the same cause.
Well, yeah, and if we think that, you know, one community does something and the other one stays wide open, I mean, we're kind of kidding ourselves, aren't we?
Exactly.
And it's a small area called the Black Hills.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that is really where we are. So Brett, what are our options now with this to move forward? I know that we had originally had conversations on Monday that we might not be in a place where we were actually ready for approval. However, within a short period of time, I want to commend the staff on pulling this together, and also thank Attorney Wyzorek, as I know that there was a lot of work that was done in a short period of time to pull this together. I'm going to ask council, are there any major changes that you see to this that need to be made? I think the only thing was from a timing perspective, and I'm hearing that because of the way that it's written and the links to the CDC, as their rules change, so does this. So there really is no need for a time frame. So with that being said, what would our options be for adoption of this?
So my expectation tonight was that we would not have a final document, and I was wrong. I guess
You might not be yet.
Yeah, I mean, you never know until the vote's in, but I agree. I think the city attorney and staff, we put this together pretty quickly. You know, the challenge was, do we start the conversation with what Rapid City is doing? And then in conversations with city attorney and the mayor and the interim finance officer, it's like, no, we're unique, we're different, and there's some other conversations that we had that said, look, this is probably a better path for us. So I think we are in a position where you can adopt this tonight, barring, even if you have a few little tweaks, word changes or additions here and there, as long as I know what they are and Stacia knows what they are and the city attorney knows what they are, that we can hammer those out, nod our head and say, yes, that'll work. We can make those changes. You can make a motion to accept those changes, authorize the mayor to sign it, and we're essentially done in one night. So now it's up to you to have your discussion of your like or dislike of what we're presenting.
So one would be then if somehow, so we're tied in with that CDC is sort of the
And the Department of Health
game
are
of
the
this,
drivers.
right?
Yep.
That kind of thing. But if we wanted to, if there was a situation where we felt that we were, this region was okay and they're continuing on for a while, because they're nationwide. They're not just thinking of. Could we terminate this on our own?
So I will say yes, and I think if we just adopt another resolution revoking or retracting this resolution would be the appropriate mechanism to do that.
Okay.
And Mr. Wyzorek, if you agree, chime in, please.
Yeah, you could do it by an additional resolution if for some reason, because of the hotspots, the CDC left in some kind of national requirement that you didn't think was appropriate. By a simple resolution, you could either terminate this one or essentially modify it too to say you just need to file the South Dakota Department of Health recommendations at this point.
Which again would make a resolution more desirable than an ordinance.
Yeah, and with an ordinance, in order to affect or amend or take that ordinance out of place, you're gonna have to have 2 readings. You know, it's a more cumbersome process. And so that's why, I think the resolution is a much better way to go.
And the way it is now, that if there was, and I don't see it happening, but if there was a bad actor, it would be brought to the council.
Yes.
We would make the decision, and I think that's where it needs to be for, versus putting that on to the staff.
I agree.
To
I
say
agree.
that gives then everybody, yeah.
I agree.
Anyway, so that's how it's written now, and
Yep.
and I know it was brought up, but anyway, so I'd say keep it that way.
So for purposes of implementation, I have had some questions for changes in business model. When should that be done? If we look at Rapid City, they're expecting to implement theirs on Friday. So somebody looking to pull the trigger for curbside, Friday would be a reasonable expectation of council. So if you adopted this and implemented it today, I'm changing, I'll have it done by Friday. Is that within your expectations?
So this could take effect immediately tonight after you adopt it. We didn't put any language in there that says on Friday at a certain date. Now you
Right.
could, but it, in effect, would take effect immediately after it was adopted. As a community or as a city organization, we could say, look, we expect their time be given to, the business owners to make the change.
Right.
And set that up however, or you can put it in the resolution. So, I mean, we're not going to be convening another meeting on Friday of this week saying we've got a bad actor already.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's not the intent of it.
So,
Right.
yeah, there's no reason if we accept this tonight that put it into effect and.
Yeah,
So
and allow
tomorrow
people-
morning say, oh, exactly,
and
so
say,
that's
look,
where I'm,
Look, it's
Well,
in
that goes
effect, you
back-
need to transition into it ASAP.
exactly.
And that might be education through staff telling them, hey, we did this. They might not know and
Exactly.
get them there versus
Just, right,
being
exactly. With the understanding that,
badgitis type
right,
approach.
right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so we have someone in the audience that would like to make a comment. Is council,
Sure.
okay, so would you come forward so folks on the phone can hear as well?
Vic Alexander. This might be more toward Talbot, the question, and Steve brought it up, that to link, as part of this, and all of us can read these 3 pages pretty easily. I don't know if the CDC's total guidelines is 1,200 pages long, or if it's a little five-line bullet point type thing. You see what I mean? So I would encourage so that neighbors can help neighbors and we don't have any bad actors. If we had some kind of a bullet pointed thing that's available from the city that is readable and understandable, everybody can help everybody and we never have any bad players, and that can
Do you have
accompany.
handouts here now on
Yeah,
CDC?
they're all-
Yeah.
They're actually all up there on the table, so it is available and we'll get those posted to the
And
website.
that way that would be available with this hard copy,
Right.
and kind of a hard copy type. of
They're
thing.
all up there if you want to grab them tonight, but like we said, we'll have them on the website as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other discussion? Any other thoughts? Okay,
Mayor Skorzinski,
yes, Alderman Minor, you have the floor.
I want to thank our businesses because they have been willing to comply so far. So I think that says a lot. I want to thank our school, Superintendent Gardner, doing a great job keeping the kids safe. And I also want to thank, I'll call them the unsung community heroes. They're out there volunteering and doing things to make this all work. So I think this is a great tool, and I don't foresee any enforcement problems. I think if we just all talk, and we've heard this before when there's been other problems in the community, if you talk to your neighbor, talk to your business, or whatever, we can resolve this without any need for enforcement. So I would be happy to make a motion to accept the resolution as written if everybody else is done with discussion.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Minor. It sounds like we have a motion on the floor from Alderman Minor.
Second.
Uh-oh, okay, so now I have, who would like to say, okay, Alderman Jarvis, second. Roll call vote, please, Stacia.
Bill Miner,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Jim Peterson,
Yes.
Steve Jarvis.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, all in favor. Action item 5B, special event Run for the Rangers. I believe I have received information that this is actually on hold right now and will be rescheduled. So this is no longer an agenda item for discussion. That being the only two agenda items that we have, meeting adjourned. Thank you everyone for participating.